Long before Bhishma's birth, there lived a king named Mahabhisha. Mahabhisha was a great king and he followed his dharma. He ruled wisely and fairly. He looked after his people, he had heirs, and he performed many austerities. And because he followed his dharma, when his time on earth was over, he gained entry into the heavens. One day in the heavens, the gods were gathered for a great ceremony. And in this ceremony, they were preparing to pay homage to Brahma, the creator. This was a great deal, and there was a lot of excitement around it. One attendee in particular generated a lot of excitement, and this was none other than the beautiful goddess river Ganga. When Ganga came into the venue, all eyes were on her. She was beautiful. She looked regal as she walked in. She was draped elegantly in a white cloth. As she entered, a powerful gust of wind blew, taking away the cloth from her body, leaving her vulnerable to the eyes of everyone present. Now, everyone present were of noble birth, so they all do the right thing, the expected thing, the decent thing. All respectfully lower their eyes. That is all except Mahabhisha, who was so enchanted with Ganga's beauty, he neglected to look away. This was absolutely the wrong thing to do. The gods, especially Brahma, were furious with Mahabhisha for failing to do the right thing. They decided that he must be punished for his transgressions. Brahma punished Mahabhisha by telling him to go back to earth and live as a mortal. So this is how it works. The goal of a mortal living on earth is to do enough good during their time there so that when it is over, they can gain entry into the heaven. And in that way, they will escape the cycle of rebirth and they will escape having to live a life of difficulties. And Mahabhisha had already done that. But because of his transgressions, he was being sent back to earth where he would have to live a life of a mortal and face the harsh realities. But after he is done, he could go back to heaven. And fortunately for him, he could also choose who he would be born as. After careful consideration, Mahabhisha chose to be reborn as the son of a king named Pratipa, who belonged to the Kuru lineage. As for Ganga, she too was shaken by what had transpired. She was curious about Mahabhisha. Thoughts of Mahabhisha occupied her mind and she was still thinking about him on her way back home. And that is when she met the Ashta Vasus. The Ashta Vasus or 8 Vasus are of noble birth, being the children of Brahma. They are deities representing the elements: water, earth, fire, sky, sun, wind, stars, and the moon. Ganga is shocked to find them there because they seem to have lost their forms and they seem to have been displaced from the heavens. They look distressed. She's concerned and so she asks them what happened. And the Vasus reveal all to her. Long story short, one day the Vasus decide to have a picnic of sorts. And so, accompanied by their wives, they all descend down to earth and go to a forest. While they were in this forest, they're all having a good time, and at some point they start exploring the place. One of the wives found a cow and its calf grazing peacefully and unafraid in the forest. There was something about this cow. It was beautiful and looked extremely healthy. She was curious about it, so she calls her husband over. Her husband is Prabhasa. He is the deity representing the sky. Prabhasa looks at the cow and he immediately recognizes it. He tells his wife that this is a divine cow belonging to the great sage Vasishta. He also reveals to her that the milk of the cow was said to be tasty and extremely powerful. The person who drinks the milk of the cow would live up to 10,000 years, all the while maintaining their youth. Now, this piques his wife's interest. She decides that this cow and its calf would make a wonderful gift for a dear friend of hers, a princess by the name Jinavati, who is the daughter of Rajarishi Ushinara. She shares her plans with her husband. Prabhasa thinks about it and he decides that it's a great idea. And that is how the Vasus, led by Prabhasa, end up stealing the cow and its calf. Now, cattle stealing was common enough during those days, but this was no ordinary cow and it belonged to no ordinary person. Sage Vasishta was a powerful and influential sage. And he used the milk from this cow to perform the many important rites and rituals that he performed. And so this cow was very beloved to him. And what's more is that the Vasus were aware of the fact. And they still went and stole from him. That evening, when Vasishta returns back home and finds that both his cow and its calf were missing, he is worried. And when he figures out what exactly happened, he is furious. In his rage, he curses the Vasus to be born as mortals on earth. When the Vasus come to know about the curse, they panic. They rush to Vasishta and beg for his mercy. Now, Vasishta had softened towards them by then. However, there was nothing he could do about the curse. Why? Because you couldn't simply cancel it. You see, for the people during the ancient times, it was very important to not speak untruths. And so, if they said that something would happen a certain way, if that didn't happen that way, then that would mean that they have spoken untruths. And they wouldn't have that. And so you cannot negate a curse. But certain compromises or remediations can be made, as you will soon see here. Vasishta tells the Vasus that they would have to be born as mortals on earth as he had cursed them, but they need stay there only for a short while before returning back to heaven. Prabhasa, the Vasu who masterminded and led the theft, would have to lead a full life as a mortal on earth before returning to heaven. Vasishta tells them that Prabhasa would be reborn as a skilled warrior. He would make sure his father was always happy, but he himself would remain childless in his lifetime. Those were Sage Vasishta's final words on the matter. The Vasus could not imagine a worse punishment. They were devastated, and this is how Ganga found them. The Vasus beg Ganga for help. They tell her that they want her to give birth to them. They say that if they have to be born as mortals on earth, then they would rather be born to someone of noble birth, like Ganga. Ganga feels sorry for them, so she agrees. The Vasus tell her that the son of King Pratipa would be their father. Now, Ganga knows that Mahabhisha would be born as the son of King Pratipa, which would mean that she would have to marry the person Mahabhisha would be reborn as. This makes Ganga happy, so she consents. The Vasus add that they want Ganga to kill them as soon as they are born by throwing them into the water, because they absolutely did not want to spend more time on earth than they had to. Ganga thinks about it, and she tells them that she wants her husband to have at least one heir, and so she would spare one child. Which unlucky Vasu do you think would be spared? It was Prabhasa. The Vasus agree. They were immensely satisfied with their arrangement with Ganga, and as a thank you for what she was doing for them, each Vasu promised 1/8 of their elemental energy to the son who would survive. But they warn Ganga that he himself would remain childless in his lifetime. With that, Ganga and the Vasus reach an agreement. Now, for Ganga to keep her promise, she would have to meet Pratipa. And an opportunity arises when Ganga finds King Pratipa meditating on the banks of the river Ganga. Ganga goes to him, she introduces herself, and she offers her hand in marriage. Pratipa is not interested, so he politely declines. But you don't simply refuse a woman as powerful as Ganga. And so Pratipa offers her the hand of his son instead. Now keep in mind, this son isn't born yet. But Ganga accepts. And she has a few conditions of her own. Her conditions are: 1, her husband must never know her real identity as a woman of high birth. And 2, he must never interfere with what she must do. Ganga declares that if her husband takes care of these 2 conditions, then she will live with him happily. As prophesied, a son is soon born to Pratipa. The little prince is named Shantanu. When Shantanu is older, King Pratipa decides to retire to the forest. He gives the throne to Shantanu and tells him about the woman who would marry him and have his children. He also tells him about the conditions she had insisted upon, and he tells Shantanu to follow them closely. A few years passed. One day, King Shantanu was walking along the banks of the river Ganga, where he meets Ganga. Just like in his previous life, Shantanu is completely enchanted with Ganga's presence and beauty. He goes to her and introduces himself. He talks to her. He sings praises of her beauty. And soon, he asks her to marry him. Ganga accepts, but she warns him that she would leave him if he ever interfered with what she must do or if he yelled at her. Shantanu thinks that that's easy enough, and so he agrees. Soon, Ganga and Shantanu are married. They have a few good years. They really like each other. They loved being with each other and enjoy each other's company. And Shantanu was always careful to make sure he wasn't interfering with what she was doing. A task that becomes increasingly difficult to do because when Ganga had a child, she immediately takes that child and throws him into the water, killing him. Shantanu is shocked, but he holds his tongue because he really does not want to alienate Ganga. Ganga does this again and again and again, and she never gives Shantanu any kind of explanation except for consoling him by saying, "I'm doing this for your own good." Shantanu continues to hold his tongue. But things change when Ganga has their 8th child. Shantanu decides that he's had enough. So in a rage, he rushes to Ganga. He yells at her. He insults her, he scolds her, he questions her origins, he asks her what kind of a woman would kill her own children. Throughout his rant, Ganga remains calm, and when he is done, just as calmly, Ganga tells Shantanu that he can have the child. But, she says, I cannot live with you any longer. I told you I would leave you if you ever interfered with my actions or if you yell at me. And so, that time has now come. Ganga finally explains to Shantanu about why she was doing what she was doing. She tells him the truth about her real identity. She tells him about the Vasus, Vasishta's curse, why she had to marry him, and why she had to kill their children. Ganga decides that she would take her infant son with her. She promises Shantanu that when the time was right, she would return him his son and heir. Shantanu is saddened, but there really was nothing he could do about it except wait for Ganga to return him his son and heir. She names him Gangadatta, or given by Ganga. He is also called Devavrata or Gangeya, but more commonly he was called Devavrata.